Well, thank you, Nassim. I actually am very much interested in this dialogue, and I will stay as long as you want me to. It's that important. I want to thank Zakaria. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, sir, and Ala Salema. Uh, the Everything that Zakaria mentioned, history is true. It can be documented, and it's a story of gross injustice. And Ms. Salame is living in the midst of that continuing injustice. And I don't think it's going to get any better under Mr. Bennett. In fact, the state of Israel is becoming more right-wing, more nationalist. More settlers are coming into the country from places like Brooklyn and the like. They're more orthodox. They're more extreme, and they seem to be more arrogant in terms of their alleged right to take land from the people who are legitimately living on that land. My problem, though, is that I think and I fear that we are speaking to the choir, preaching to the choir, if you will. And the choir has no power to change things. We can feel upset, angry, but an injustice should make us upset and angry and determined to do something about it, to correct that injustice. But the reality on the ground today is that that injustice is going to continue. And the only way that it's going to change is that the choir, who are willing to listen to these facts of the history and what's happening on the ground today, are empowered to make a difference. And the way you get power is through money and votes. It's financial and political power. And the choir, who are interested in this, who care about this, don't have that power. They've lost their leverage. I think the fact that the Saudis and the Emiratis have basically thrown the Palestinians and their cause under the bus, to use an American term, concretizes, solidifies that reality. So I think that we need a different approach. I listen to this and I feel as upset as I do when I listen to the history recounted of the indigenous people of America, Native Americans. They actually prefer to be called Indian Americans, so I'll call them as they choose to be called, but they suffered horrible injustice. They were slaughtered. There was ethnic cleansing that took place virtually over the entire continent. And today, a small minority even live on the reservations that they were forced into. But what they're doing is going into casinos, gambling, if you will, which was anathema to their philosophy, but they're also moving into the cities and getting better health care and better education and better employment opportunity. Their story is one of gross injustice, but it's also one of human nature. And it's comparable to what has happened to the Palestinians. The Palestinians have been confined to reservations, and those reservations are becoming smaller and smaller. And some people have referred to them as open air prisons. And in some ways, that description is not inaccurate. So I think we need to figure out a better approach. I think we've got to figure out how to acquire more financial influence and particularly more political influence. That's going to be up to the Palestinians, their leadership. But Palestinian leadership is almost an oxymoron today. They The Palestinians are not united. There is too much evidence of corruption, of backstabbing among different groups, and that only strengthens the ability of those who want to wipe the Palestinians off the map, or at least deprive them of all their land and all their resources, and particularly the political influence. So I think the Palestinian people are going to have to speak with one more united voice. They're going to have to be less corrupt than Caesar's wife, if you will, to use another silly expression. They're not going to be able to give any excuse for people who want to perpetuate this injustice. So I'm kind of in the camp of Peter Beinart, who is an American thinker who has rallied a number of thoughtful young people in the United States, a lot of them liberal young Jewish people who care about this issue. They would probably, the only real solution is probably a one-state solution at this point, because the Palestinians have lost. They've lost their leverage. And I think they're going to continue to lose until we try a different approach. What is happening in the Arab community that Allah spoke of is just one more anecdotal example of what is going to continue to happen when the Israelis realize they have all the power and influence, even among Arab nations today, with the exception of Qatar. So that's my take. It sounds cynical, but I just don't see a way out of this injustice and a path toward the kind of peace and prosperity that the Palestinian people deserve.